The meteor shower began on the night of Finn Sullivan's 12th birthday. He watched from his grandmother's orchard as trails of light painted the autumn sky, each streak reflecting in his wide brown eyes. The apples hung heavy on the trees, their sweet scent mixing with the crisp October air. Most kids his age would be inside playing video games, but Finn preferred the quiet company of stars and the ancient apple trees his grandmother had tended for 40 years. "Counting stars again, little dreamer." His grandmother's voice carried across the orchard. Nana Rose stood on the back porch, her silver hair glowing in the porch light. She was the only person who never made fun of his fascination with the sky. "Something feels different tonight, Nana," Finn called back, his breath visible in the cool air. "The meteors, they're moving wrong." Indeed, while most of the light streaked predictably across the sky, one particular light seemed to dance, moving in impossible patterns before disappearing behind the tree line. A low rumble followed, subtle enough that Finn felt it in his chest more than heard it. "Just be back before it gets too late," Nana Rose said, understanding in her voice. She knew her grandson well enough to recognize when curiosity would get the better of him. Finn grabbed his backpack, always packed with a flashlight, first aid kit, and snacks, Nana's insistence, and headed toward the woods that bordered their property. The fallen leaves cushioned his steps as he walked deeper into the forest, guided by an inexplicable pull toward where the strange light had vanished. The air grew warmer as he approached a clearing he'd never noticed before. Steam rose from scorched earth, and at the center lay something that defied explanation. At first glance, it appeared to be a massive bird, but as Finn's eyes adjusted to the darkness, he realized he was looking at something entirely alien. The creature was easily twice his size, with scales that shifted colors like oil on water. Instead of feathers, its wings were composed of what looked like living crystal, now cracked and dulled. Its long neck ended in a distinctly dragon-like head, though its features were more elegant than frightening. Most striking were its eyes, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle pattern, each one swirling with galaxies of their own. The creature was wounded, its crystalline wings damaged, and a strange luminescent fluid leaked from various injuries. As Finn approached, it raised its head weakly, those cosmic eyes fixing upon him with unmistakable intelligence. "You're hurt," Finn said softly, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "I want to help." The creature made a sound like wind through crystal caves, and to Finn's astonishment, words formed in his mind, "Child of Earth, why do you not run?" "Because you're in pain," Finn replied simply, already reaching for his first aid kit. "And Nana always says that when someone needs help, you help them, no matter who they are." A sound like chimes filled the air, the creature's laughter. "Your kind continues to surprise us. But your bandages cannot heal these wounds, young one." "Then tell me what can," Finn said, kneeling beside the massive being. "I'm Finn, by the way. And this is my grandmother's land, so you're safe here." The creature's eyes swirled with new colors. "I am called Astrifis, though that is merely the closest your tongue can come to my true name. I require sustenance. Energy. But I dare not take it from your world's power sources, it would cause too much disruption." Finn thought for a moment, then pulled his birthday cake from his backpack, a thick slice of Nana's famous apple cake, made with fruit from their own orchard. "Would this help? Nana always says her apple cake can cure anything." Astrifis's eyes focused on the offering, and Finn felt a wave of something like amazement emanate from the creature. "You would share your celebration feast freely?" "It's just cake," Finn said, though they both knew it was more than that. It was trust, offered without hesitation. The creature delicately took the cake, and as it consumed it, something extraordinary happened. The apples in Finn's grandmother's orchard began to glow with a soft light, and waves of energy flowed from them toward Astrifis. The creature's wounds began to heal, its crystalline wings repairing themselves. "Your grandmother's trees," Astrifis said, wonder in its mental voice. "They are ancient guardians, keepers of earth energy. And you, child, you have activated them with your act of kindness." Finn watched in amazement as the orchard seemed to pulse with life, each apple now containing a universe of its own. What does this mean? It means, Finn Sullivan, that you have set in motion events that will change not just your world, but many others. The Cosmic Council has long sought a sign, a proof that humanity was ready for what is to come. They chose me to test your kind, though not all agreed with the method. Test us? For what? Before Astrefus could answer, a high-pitched tone cut through the night air. The creature's eyes darkened with concern. They have followed me. Finn, you must make a choice now. What you have done, sharing your feast, showing kindness to a stranger, it has marked you. You can turn back now, return to your life, and I will ensure you remember this only as a dream. Or. Finn asked, already knowing his answer. Or you can become something more. A bridge between worlds. But it will not be easy, and there are those who would stop us at any cost. The tone grew louder, and lights appeared in the distance, lights that moved with purpose. Finn thought of his quiet life with Nana, of the orchard and his comfortable routine. Then he thought of the stars he'd always dreamed about, and of the creature before him who had shown him that those dreams weren't big enough. I want to help, he said firmly. Whatever's coming, I want to help. Astrefus's eyes glowed with approval and something else, hope, perhaps. Then take my mark, guardian of the gates, and prepare yourself. For tonight, your world begins to change. The creature touched its forehead to Finn's, and in that moment, the universe opened up before him. He saw worlds beyond imagination, creatures of light and shadow, and a war that had raged since the first stars were born. But more importantly, he saw his role in it all, a role that began with a simple act of kindness on his 12th birthday. Behind them, the orchard continued to glow, each apple a testament to the power of small choices and the tremendous consequences they can have across the cosmos. Dawn broke over the orchard differently that morning. The apples still held a faint luminescence, like captured starlight, and Finn could see things he'd never noticed before, patterns of energy flowing through the earth, connections between living things that glowed like delicate spider webs in the morning light. Nana Rose stood at the kitchen window, stirring her tea with deliberate slowness. So, she said as Finn entered, you've met our visitor. Finn froze halfway to the refrigerator. You know. His grandmother's eyes twinkled. Child, who do you think has been tending these guardian trees all these years? She gestured to the orchard outside. Your grandfather wasn't just a farmer, and I wasn't just a gardener. We were keepers. In the barn, concealed by a clever arrangement of hay bales and old farm equipment, Astrefus rested. The creature's wounds had mostly healed, though its crystalline wings still showed hairline fractures. Finn brought a basket of apples, watching in fascination as the fruit dissolved into pure energy that the alien absorbed. Your grandmother is wise, Astrefus observed. She has maintained the earth energy here for decades, keeping it pure and strong. It is why I was drawn to this place when I fell. Why didn't you tell me about all this? Finn asked his grandmother, who had followed him into the barn. Some things must be discovered, not taught, Nana Rose replied, reaching out to touch one of Astrefus's wings. The mark suits you, little dreamer. Finn touched his forehead where Astrefus had connected with him the night before. In the mirror that morning, he'd seen a subtle pattern there, like a constellation etched in light beneath his skin. The mark of the guardian, Astrefus explained. It connects you to the cosmic web, the network of energy that binds all living things across all worlds. But it also makes you visible to those who would prevent what must come to pass. The ones who were chasing you, Finn remembered. Who are they? The Void Hunters, Nana Rose answered before Astrefus could speak. They believe in separation, that worlds should remain apart, that species should never mix. They see themselves as preservers of purity, but their way leads only to stagnation and death. Astrefus nodded solemnly. They were once guardians themselves, before fear corrupted their purpose. Now they seek to prevent the great convergence, the moment when all worlds must choose whether to remain forever separate or join in harmony. Throughout the day, Finn learned more about his new role. Nana Rose taught him how to sense the earth energy flowing through the orchard, while Astrifis showed him how to channel it. Simple things at first, making an apple float, healing an injured bird, seeing the memories stored in ancient trees. The power doesn't come from you, Nana explained as she showed him how to strengthen the orchard's protective barriers. It comes through you. You're like a lens, focusing the energy that's already there. But it wasn't all magical training. There were practical concerns too. The Void Hunters would return, better prepared next time. They began preparing the farm, strengthening old protections and creating new ones. Nana Rose pulled out books hidden behind false walls, their pages filled with knowledge gathered by keepers across generations. As evening approached, Finn sat with Astrifis, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors that seemed more vivid than ever before. I still don't understand why me, he admitted. I'm just, normal. The creature's laugh chimed through the air. Normal? You saw a wounded alien creature and your first instinct was to help. Do you know how rare that is? Not just on your world, but on any world. The capacity for unconditional kindness, that is the rarest power in the universe. But what about Nana? She's been doing this her whole life. Your grandmother is a keeper, a guardian of place and power. But you, Finn, are meant to be a bridge. The Mark chose you because you can help others cross the divisions between worlds, between species, between ways of thinking. That is why the Void Hunters fear you more than they fear me. A distant tone, like the one from the previous night, echoed across the valley. Astrifis's eyes darkened. They're testing the barriers, searching for ways in. We don't have much time. Finn stood, feeling the mark on his forehead warm slightly. Then we better make sure we're ready. What's next? Next, Nana Rose said, appearing in the barn doorway with an ancient book in her hands, we teach you the old ways. The things your grandfather and I learned from our parents, and they from theirs. Being a bridge doesn't just mean looking forward, it means understanding where we've come from. As night fell, they gathered in the kitchen. While Nana Rose taught Finn protective sigils and healing songs passed down through generations of keepers, Astrifis shared knowledge of the cosmos, the great civilizations that existed beyond Earth's knowledge, the delicate balance between order and chaos, and the role humanity might play in the coming convergence. Remember, Astrifis said as Finn practiced creating shields of pure energy, the Void Hunters aren't evil. They're afraid. Fear can make good people do terrible things. Is that why they hurt you? Finn asked. They believe they're protecting the natural order. But the natural order is change, growth, connection. Worlds that remain isolated eventually wither. Species that never change eventually fade. The universe itself seeks harmony through diversity. A series of rapid tones pierced the night, closer now. Lights flickered in the distance, moving with purpose through the valley. Nana Rose looked out the window, her face grave. They're coming, she said quietly. Sooner than we expected. Finn, are you ready? Finn looked at his grandmother, then at Astrifis, feeling the weight of trust they'd placed in him. The mark on his forehead pulsed gently, and he could sense the power of the orchard thrumming through the earth beneath them. He thought of all he'd learned in just one day, and all that was still to come. I'm ready, he said, and was surprised to find he meant it. What do we do? Astrifis's eyes swirled with determination. We show them that the time of separation is ending. We show them that bridges are stronger than walls. But first. The creature's form began to shift, crystalline wings folding into themselves, scales rearranging until a tall, elegant humanoid stood before them, still shimmering with otherworldly energy. First, we prepare for battle. Outside, the Void Hunters' ships descended through the clouds, their angular forms blocking out the stars. The apples in the orchard blazed with light, responding to the threat. And in the farmhouse kitchen, a boy, his grandmother, and a being from beyond the stars made ready to defend not just their home, but the very idea of connection itself. The true test was about to begin. The Void Hunters' ships hung in the air like obsidian shards, their surfaces absorbing both light and sound. Finn stood in the orchard between Nana Rose and Astrifis, feeling the earth energy surge through him as the first ship landed. They emerged like liquid shadow, tall, armored figures whose forms seemed to shift and ripple. Their helmets were featureless except for a single vertical line of purple light. 5 of them, moving with perfect synchronization, approached the orchard's boundary. "Last chance, Star Weaver," one of them called out, its voice somehow both mechanical and organic. "Surrender yourself, and we'll spare this primitive world." Astrifis, still in humanoid form, stepped forward. "You know that's not true, Hunter. Once you found a world of bridges, your protocols demand its quarantine. How many worlds have you locked away, claiming to protect them while really leaving them to wither in isolation?" The lead hunter raised its hand, revealing a weapon that pulsed with void energy. "Better isolation than corruption. We've seen what happens when worlds mix freely. Chaos. Disorder. The collapse of natural boundaries." "You mean change?" Nana Rose spoke up, her voice carrying surprising authority. "Life is change. These trees you see? They're not the same species that grew here 1,000 years ago. They evolved, adapted, became something new, and they're stronger for it." "Your understanding is limited, Old One," another hunter said. "The cosmos has an order that must be maintained." Finn felt something then, a ripple of emotion from the hunters. Not contempt or hatred, but fear. Deep, ancient fear. The mark on his forehead tingled as he realized what Astrifis had meant about fear driving them. "You're scared," Finn said suddenly, stepping forward despite Nana's attempt to hold him back. "Not of us, not really. You're scared of what happens when things change because then you can't control them anymore." The lead hunter's helmet turned toward him, the purple light flaring. "The bridge child speaks as if he understands matters beyond his comprehension. This is why interference must be stopped. Already it corrupts the young." "That's enough," Astrifis said, its form beginning to shimmer. "Finn, Rose, activate the orchard's defenses. They leave us no choice." The hunters moved as one, raising their weapons, but Finn was already moving. He pressed his hand against the nearest apple tree, channeling energy the way Nana had taught him. The entire orchard blazed to life, each apple becoming a star, each tree a pillar of light. A dome of golden energy began to form over them. The hunters fired, their weapons sending beams of darkness that ate through the light, but where they struck the dome, the apples pulsed brighter, feeding more power into the shield. Nana Rose began to sing in a language Finn didn't recognize, and the earth itself responded, roots erupting from the ground to entangle the hunters' feet. But the hunters were powerful. One of them touched the dome with its hand, and frost began to spread across the energy field, dark ice that drank in the light. Another fired a pulse that shattered several trees, making Finn cry out as he felt their pain through his connection to the orchard. Astrifis reverted to its true form, crystalline wings spreading wide. "You forget, brothers," it said, its mental voice resonating with power, "I am not just any star weaver. I am a chronicler. I remember what you choose to forget." The creature's wings began to shine with impossible colors, and suddenly the air was filled with images, hundreds, thousands of them, showing worlds where different species lived in harmony, where cultures blended and created new wonders, where change led not to destruction but to beauty. The images weren't just visual, they carried emotional weight, memories of joy and discovery and growth. Several of the hunters staggered back, overwhelmed by the assault of positive memories. But their leader stood firm. "Sentiment," it spat. "The universe requires order." "No," Finn said, understanding flowing through him with the orchard's power. "The universe is order and chaos together. That's what makes it alive." He reached out with his mind, the way Astrifis had taught him, and touched the hunter's consciousness. Images flowed both ways then. Finn saw the hunter's memories of worlds torn apart by conflict, but he also showed the hunter his own memories. Nana rose tending her trees with love, different species of plants growing stronger together, the simple beauty of sharing birthday cake with a stranger. The hunter's purple eye light flickered. "Stop," it commanded, but its voice held uncertainty. "You were meant to protect," Finn said softly, maintaining the connection. But somewhere along the way, protection became prison. "It doesn't have to be like that." For a moment, just a moment, the hunter's armor seemed to soften, its rigid lines becoming less severe. But then one of its companions fired at Finn, breaking the connection. Astrifis moved with lightning speed, its wing deflecting the shot. "Enough," the lead hunter declared. "If you will not submit to quarantine, we will be forced to implement final protocols." Above them, the ships began to hum with building energy. Finn could feel their intent. They meant to sterilize the entire valley, eliminating any trace of off-world contact. But something was happening in the orchard. The apples, still glowing like stars, began to pulse in rhythm. Finn felt power flowing into him from every tree, from the earth itself, from Nana Rose's generations of care and protection. Astrifis's wings chimed in harmony with the pulse. "What's happening?" one of the hunters demanded. Nana Rose smiled. "The orchard is choosing," she said simply. Through his mark, Finn felt it, the trees were offering their power, all of it, freely given. He understood what he had to do. Raising both hands, he let the energy flow through him, not trying to control it but simply acting as a bridge. Light exploded outward from the orchard in a wave of pure creation energy. Where it touched the hunters, their armor transformed, rigid plates becoming flowing forms that moved with their bodies rather than constraining them. Their weapons morphed into tools of communication and connection. The lead hunter looked at its transformed self in shock. What have you done to us?" "Nothing you didn't secretly wish for," Astrifis said gently. "The power of the bridge isn't to destroy or control, it's to transform. To heal. To connect." The hunter's helmet dissolved, revealing a face that was both alien and somehow familiar. Its eyes, now visible, showed not purple light but swirling galaxies much like Astrifis's. "We were like you once," it said softly, looking at its former weapons. "Before the fear." The other hunters were also transforming, their rigid forms becoming fluid, their presence no longer threatening but simply different. Their ships above shifted too, sharp edges softening into organic curves. Finn swayed, drained but happy. Nana Rose caught him before he could fall. "Well done, little dreamer," she whispered. "Well done indeed." But their victory celebration was premature. A new sound cut through the night, a deeper, darker tone that made the transformed hunters look up in alarm. "The council," the lead hunter said, fear returning to its voice. "They're coming themselves. What we just did, it will be seen as the ultimate violation of protocol." Astrifis's eyes darkened. "Then we must be ready. For if they cannot accept transformation, they will seek not just quarantine, but annihilation." Finn looked at the darkening sky, feeling the approach of something vast and ancient. The real test, he realized, was just beginning. The council's arrival tore a hole in reality itself. Through the rift came beings of such ancient power that looking at them directly made Finn's eyes water. They appeared as massive geometric forms of pure energy, pyramids, spheres, and shapes that human geometry had no names for, each one radiating authority older than Earth's sun. "Explain this aberration," they spoke in unison, their thoughts so powerful that the words appeared as burning symbols in the air. The transformed hunters knelt, their new flowing forms rippling with anxiety. Even Astrifis bowed its crystalline head. Only Nana Rose stood tall, one hand on Finn's shoulder, the other gripping her ancient staff of apple wood. "There is no aberration here," Nana Rose declared, her voice carrying the weight of generations of keepers. "Only the natural order expressing itself in a new way. Natural order is separation, the council responded. It has been so since the sundering. Finn felt something stir in his mind, a memory not his own, shared through his connection with Astrifis. He saw the universe as it had once been, countless civilizations growing together, sharing knowledge and culture across the stars. Then came the fear, the wars, the decision to separate all worlds, for their own protection. But that was never meant to be permanent, was it? Finn asked, surprising himself with his boldness. The sundering was supposed to give worlds time to grow on their own, not keep them apart forever. The geometric forms shifted, colors rippling through their impossible angles. The child speaks of matters beyond his understanding. No, said the lead transformed hunter, rising to its feet. He understands better than we have in millennia. Look at what has happened here, true transformation, not by force but by choice. The very thing we were meant to guide, not prevent. Astrifis spread its wings, each crystal fragment catching and refracting the council's light. Show them, Finn. Show them what you showed the hunters. Finn closed his eyes, reaching out with his mind. The mark on his forehead blazed as he connected not just to the orchard, but to the very memories of Earth itself. He showed the council everything, the endless dance of evolution, species adapting and changing together, cultures meeting and creating new ways of being. He showed them the apple trees, how careful cultivation had transformed bitter wild fruit into something sweet and nourishing. He showed them humanity's dreams of the stars, their longing to connect, to explore, to grow. The boy shows us what we already know, the council said, but their tone had changed slightly. Change brings chaos. Change brings life, Nana Rose countered. She reached up and plucked an apple from the nearest tree. It glowed with stored starlight. Look at this fruit. It contains the story of countless changes, countless choices. And it's beautiful because of that, not in spite of it. The council's forms drew closer, their energy making the air crackle. You challenge eons of wisdom with a piece of fruit? I challenge it with truth, Nana said. She cut the apple in half, revealing the star pattern of seeds within. Every seed here could grow into a different kind of tree. Every possibility contains countless more possibilities. That's not chaos, that's the deepest kind of order there is. Finn felt something shift in the council's collective consciousness, not agreement, not yet, but doubt. He pressed the advantage, opening his mind fully to them, showing them not just Earth's memories but his own. The simple joy of climbing trees, of watching stars, of helping someone in need without expecting anything in return. You say you protect worlds, Finn said softly, but you're really just imprisoning them. Life finds a way to connect. It always has. The only question is whether you'll help guide that connection or try to stop it. The transformed hunters stood with Finn now, their new forms resonating with his words. Astrifis moved to his other side, its wings creating a bridge of light between Earth and the Council's realm. The time of separation is ending, Astrifis declared. Not because we decree it, but because it must. The universe itself seeks harmony through diversity. Fight it, and you fight the very force that gave you your power to begin with. The Council's forms began to spin, faster and faster, their geometric perfection beginning to blur. If what you say is true, then all we have built can be transformed, Finn finished. Just like the hunters were. Not destroyed, not replaced, but changed into something new. Something better. A sound like a trillion bells ringing at once filled the air. The Council's forms started to shift, their rigid geometries becoming more fluid, more organic. But then they suddenly snapped back to their original shapes. No, they thundered. We cannot allow this. The risk is too great. The rift in reality began to widen, and through it Finn could see what they intended, not just quarantine, but complete isolation. They would cut Earth off from the rest of the universe entirely, sealing it away in its own pocket of space-time. You can't. Finn cried, feeling the wrongness of it in his very bones. They can, Astrifis said grimly. And they will, unless. Unless what? The cosmic being turned its three eyes to Finn. Unless you're willing to make a sacrifice. The power of a bridge works both ways, Finn. You can connect worlds, or you can hold them apart. Nana Rose gripped his hand tightly. Finn, no. There has to be another way. But Finn understood what Astrifis meant. He could feel it through his mark, the power to connect was also the power to separate. If he chose to, he could use his gift to create a different kind of barrier, one that would protect Earth but also preserve its connection to the cosmos. The only cost would be himself. The choice must be yours, Astrifis said softly. But know that whatever you decide, you have already changed the universe simply by showing what's possible. The Council's power built around them like a gathering storm. Time was running out. Finn looked at his grandmother, at the transformed hunters, at the orchard that had been his home for so long. Then he looked up at the stars he'd always dreamed about, the stars that were really other worlds waiting to be discovered. He made his choice. Finn stepped forward, his bare feet pressing into the cool earth of the orchard. The mark on his forehead blazed like a newborn star as he faced the Council's overwhelming presence. I won't let you cut us off, he said, his voice carrying the strength of his conviction. But I won't fight you either. Instead, I'll show you another way. Before anyone could stop him, Finn stretched out his arms and opened himself completely, not just his mind, but his entire being. He became a conduit, drawing power from every apple tree, every blade of grass, every living thing in the valley. But he didn't stop there. Through his mark, he reached deeper, touching the very soul of Earth itself. The Council's geometric forms vibrated with alarm. What is the child doing? Something impossible, Astrifis whispered in awe. He's becoming a true bridge. Light erupted from Finn's body, not the simple illumination of before, but pure creation energy. It spread outward in waves, each pulse carrying the essence of what made Earth special, its diversity, its adaptability, its endless capacity for change and growth. But mixed with Earth's essence was something else, the wisdom of the stars that Astrifis had shared, the ancient knowledge of the keepers, and most importantly, the simple truth of a boy who chose to help rather than fear. The transformed hunters gasped as the light touched them, their new forms resonating with its frequency. The Council tried to maintain their rigid shapes, but the light seeped through every geometric angle, carrying with it memories and feelings they had forgotten they possessed. Remember, Finn said, his voice echoing with power not his own. Remember what you were meant to be. Through his connection, the Council saw everything, not just Earth's history, but the histories of all worlds. They saw how isolation had slowly poisoned once vibrant civilizations. They saw how the fear of change had become a self-fulfilling prophecy, creating the very chaos they sought to prevent. But most importantly, they saw the possibility of something new. The light reached a crescendo, and for a moment, everyone present could see what Finn saw, a future where worlds moved in harmony, different but connected, each unique but part of a greater whole. It was not perfect, there was still conflict, still challenge, still change, but it was alive with possibility. The universe doesn't need guardians of separation, Finn said, though his voice was growing weak. It needs bridges. It needs those who can help different worlds, different peoples, different ideas find their way to each other without losing what makes them special. The Council's forms began to change, not fighting the transformation this time but embracing it. Their geometric perfection softened, becoming more organic while retaining their ancient power. When they spoke again, their voice was different, still mighty, but with a new harmony. We remember now, they said. We were not created to prevent change, but to guide it. To nurture it. To ensure that when worlds meet, they meet in wisdom rather than fear. Finn smiled, but his light was fading. The power running through him was too much for any one being to channel. Nana Rose rushed forward to catch him as he stumbled. Finn, she cried, tears streaming down her face. Let go, child. You've done enough. But Finn shook his head weakly. Not yet. One more thing. With the last of his strength, he reached out to the council, offering not just a vision this time but a choice. Help me build it, he whispered. Help me build a real bridge. The council moved as one, their transformed forms surrounding Finn. The transformed hunters joined them, then Astrefis, then Nana rose. Each added their power to his, not to increase the flow but to share the burden. Above them, the rift in reality began to change. Instead of a tear, it became a doorway. Instead of a barrier, it became a connection. The light flowing through Finn didn't fade, instead, it stabilized, becoming a permanent bridge between Earth and the cosmos. Finn collapsed, utterly drained, but alive. The mark on his forehead had changed, becoming a pattern that matched the new bridge above. It is done, Astrefis said softly. The first of many bridges to come. The council, in their new forms, bowed to Finn. You have taught us what we forgot. The time of isolation is over. Now begins the age of bridging. Nana Rose helped Finn sit up, and together they watched as the transformed hunters took to the sky, their flowing forms beautiful against the stars. The council remained briefly, working with Astrefis to establish protocols for this new age, not rules of separation, but guidelines for healthy connection. What happens now? Finn asked, leaning against his grandmother. Now, she said, smiling, we do what we've always done. We tend our trees, we watch the stars, and we help when help is needed. But we won't be alone anymore. Indeed, through the bridge above, Finn could see other worlds, other possibilities. Earth was connected now, part of something greater while still remaining itself. In the orchard, the apples still glowed faintly with starlight, but it was a gentle glow, a reminder rather than a beacon. You know, Finn said, looking at the transformed council as they prepared to depart, all of this started because I shared a piece of birthday cake. Astrefis chimed with laughter. The greatest changes often start with the smallest kindnesses. That is what makes them powerful. That is what makes them true. As the cosmic beings departed through the bridge, Finn stood with his grandmother in their orchard. Above them, the stars seemed closer somehow, more like neighbors than distant lights. The bridge he'd helped create shimmered with possibility, a reminder that the universe was wider and more wonderful than anyone had imagined. But it was also simpler than the council had thought. Sometimes, all it took to change everything was a small act of kindness, offered freely to a stranger on a starlit night. Finn picked up an apple, now gently glowing with its own inner light, and took a bite. It tasted of home and adventure, of endings and beginnings, of a future where boundaries were not walls but bridges, waiting to be crossed. And somewhere, in the vast cosmos now connected to Earth, other young bridges were awakening, ready to help build a universe where difference was not a source of fear, but a reason to reach out, to share, to grow. The age of isolation was over. The age of connection had begun.